So it's a pleasure to introduce Canan Dağdeviren, a professor at the MIT Media Lab whose work beautifully blends design, science, and human experience. Her research focuses on creating flexible, wearable, and implantable electronic devices that conform to the human body. Instead of rigid machines, she designs systems that bend, twist, and adapt to organic forms. Many of her inventions decode physical patterns such as heartbeats, muscle movements, and other biological signals, and convert them into valuable energy or medical data. In other words, she treats the body as a source of information and inspiration, and her designs translate that information into life-improving technologies. As a designer, what's particularly compelling about her work is the way she combines material innovation, human-centered thinking, and engineering precision. She challenges traditional ideas about what electronics should look like and how they should function. Rather than designing devices that people have to adjust to, she designs devices that adjust to people. So welcome to Janan.
Wow, what an introduction. Thank you, Victoria. Beautiful. I appreciate it, and you inspire me. I should also challenge my students to introduce our speakers. This is so cool. Thank you. So let me share my screen. I'm not sure if you see it completely. Wait a second. Do you see it well?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so as Victoria beautifully summarized, my group works on different types of device formats to understand human body in a collective manner. And the name of my group, if you are familiar with the Media Lab style, consists of two words which describes briefly what we are trying to do in our groups compared to traditional groups. So I call my group as conformable decoders because I believe that we live in an ocean of physical patterns, heart rates, respiration, neuronal activity, and so on. And all this physical information actually has a message insights, kind of a biological language that needs to be translated into electrical language that we are doing it through the decoding. So technically the devices are the decoders, and also they are conformable, malleable. They can take the shape and adapt their shapes with respect to any target location in the human body. So overall, my scientific and technological and academic contributions have been towards the emerging field of widely deployed user-friendly biosensing systems for improved human health. And why we do that? We try to pioneer new healthcare technologies in some which are organ specific. For instance, if you really would like to understand the skin, then it has to be wearable. If you would like to understand the brain, to us, it has to be implantable, which goes inside the deep brain and understand everything. So that's why we call it target specific, organ specific. And they are, at the end of the day, are miniaturized, much smaller than than the traditional technologies, so that we can really thin them down and make it flexible rather than bulky and hard rigid electronics. And plus they are mechanically conformable to the soft tissue, which are the tissue that we are interested overall the human body. So when you compare today's electronics with compared to the biology, there are actually severe challenges in mechanics mismatch and geometrical form mismatch. Since we cannot change the biology yet, we are changing the electronic devices by designing and by exploiting the different media and materials so that these devices can take the shape and form and mechanical properties that match those of human tissues that we are interested in. So to me, the human body is magical. Eyes, nose, skin, they all talk to us. And by creating these malleable technological devices, we can even roll them like a Turkish carpet and place in a dissolvable capsule and eat them, like all the way from your mouth to the other end through a fantastic voyage, as you may call. When this dissolvable capsules dissolves away, the device sticks on the stomach lining. In a very acidic environment, it can tell the motility changes. And we introduced first time ever an 8-inch wafer piezoelectric material processing in which you can lift off the device from the silicon mother substrate and print on silicon substrate and even laminate on your facial skin by using different facial gestures, you can create thousands of messages, especially for people who may have speech disorders. You may even camouflage them with makeup products so that nobody can really understand you're wearing them. And they can be even a part of your personal garments, like, t-shirts and so on. You can even wash them and see how they are doing over time. And or they can be a part of your personal garments too, like underwear, bra. And by using them as a substrate, you can check any different anomalies in your given soft tissue. These devices can be stretched, twist, bended, and be laminated on even large organs like on the abdominal skin, specifically to understand overall volume of your bladder tissue. And you can also use this device on top of your skin, which is the largest organ at the end of the day. And by using different types of drugs and by leveraging ultrasonography technique, you can actually make these devices to be, hormones to be absorbed by the skin. Or you can make them really tiny, like thinner than hair fiber. And this device can go into the brain and do different types of dopaminergic release in the brain itself. And overall, here, what we are trying to do with this conformable piezoelectric sensors and electronics is to build a framework for imaging, which are the imaging of the complex systems like a breast tissue, which is large, curvilinear, and the shape can change from person to person or the size. And also, we would like to show the versatility of our technology in a traditional medicine area, for which we are introducing a non-invasive controlled drug delivery system. And on top of it, by merging different types of disciplines, all the way from material science to neuroscience, electronics, and medicine, we are providing fundamental tools for exploring in the fundamental biology and understand how we can provide new tools to understand really tiny specific submicron regions in the deep brain by providing something invasive so that this knowledge can leverage non-invasive technologies in future. But overall, specifically my group last few years has been focusing on women's health. Oftentimes I call it femtech. Let me give you some dramatic reasonings for them, some statements, some facts. 80% of autoimmune diseases is in women, and we still don't understand why. And then heart disease remains the #1 cause of death in both genders, but in women wait longer in ER to be treated. And more dramatic is that women were excluded from clinical trials until 1993, and hormones were given as an excuse, as a factor, and which means there is a massive data gap in our hormone health. And since mice do not menstruate, how will we catch up? So in our work, we are providing, offering these new technologies, which are tackling the diseases or the women's health overall, which has been underfunded, underexplored, understudied, undervalued for a long time. And we believe it's the time that we really need to focus on this kind of technologies. And given that the time is limited, I will only focus 2 of these technologies and try to touch base more on the designing part of it. Why design is important, why it has to be design-specific devices, and how this design considerations are bringing us new values in terms of the device functionality, human user experience, and long-term usage, and high data collection, and so on. So let me first talk about the conformable ultrasound breast patch, which we call it US bra patch. And this is specifically for early breast cancer detection. Not sure if you can hear your body like you do. It's short video. Spotting dangerous diseases way before symptoms arrive. Protecting yourself by detecting yourself is the goal. So this wearable non-invasive ultrasound patch is specifically for early breast cancer detection.
Professor Dağdeviren has been working with her students for 6 years on a wearable breast monitor. Because it uses ultrasound waves instead of radiation to create an image, the monitor can be used regularly. This invention inspired her students to create smaller, even less invasive silicone patches that can scan for other cancers.
Wearable technologies will grow rapidly in near future, but in the far future, they will be one of the most powerful tools that we will be seeing in our daily life. So this was a nice clip from CNN, which created this video for lay description. But overall, the idea here in this work, how we can democratize ultrasound technology. Currently, the technologies that we see during our daily life are very bulky, very expensive, and you have to be in the clinical settings. You have to stay stationary, and they are very expensive. And oftentimes you may have barriers because of not having either insurance coverage or money and or knowledge. And current standard care of screening is mammography. However, it's radiative, so you cannot, have mammography every other year, even though you are high risk, because risk over benefit is quite high. And by the time you have your second mammography, assuming the first one is clear, 45 percentile of women it's late for a large population of women, and they develop interval cancer, which is happening in between two mammography scans. So you miss. So we were saying, how about we create a new nature-inspired honeycomb structure in which it can provide large area imaging, single shot imaging across the curvilinear shapes, and it's scalable. It's non-invasive, directly on top of the tissue, non-radiative, and no skill operator is needed. It's portable, at home use, and it can also provide new piezoelectric. We also show new piezoelectric materials in the literature by using this technology, which increase the performance of the device and decrease the voltage usage, which is especially good for the third world countries. So here, what we are actually doing, I forgot to, I think, include it, but by providing this honeycomb structure, we are allowing the technology by using this hexagon shapes and having the ultrasound scanner moving from one location to the other location, which actually covers the entire, as you can see from the left far image, you're actually covering the entire 4 quadrants of a given breast tissue. So the technology, by moving this around using this tracker, can allow you to check the breast tissue from different angles. And by creating 2D images and combining all together, you can actually create 3D real-time the images and videos. And why this is important? It's important because by checking these anomalies, you can show the doctors without any deformation on top of the skin where the anomaly is and the coordination itself, and also providing a great deal of resolution, which is 0.05 centimeter, which is more than enough, actually 1 order of magnitude higher than a stage 1 tumor sizes. This is specifically important for early breast cancer detection. And we do these trials with MIT Center for Clinical and Translational Research, as well as our collaborators at MGH. So also by using this technology and sort of changing the architecture of the piezoelectric part of it, which includes transducers and transmitters, we actually change not only the form factor, but of also the design of it, where we create a box shape, which we call it coda shape. And then here you can see 2 different sepals in between each other, which are very complex structure. And not only the number of the elements we dramatically decrease, but also we do not need high voltage, the power consumption decrease quite a lot. So by using a simple architecture and design, we could actually get a similar resolution and frame rate with respect to commercially available ultrasonography systems that are in the picture. And by using this technology, we did our first trials. Actually, let me first tell. So this is the top picture on the far left. You can see data acquisition system, Verisonic data acquisition system, which is cart mounted, and the refrigerator size of data acquisition system. It's an order of 250K, like very expensive. And obviously no one can carry this around. No one can keep it at home. You have to be in a hospital settings. So we are actually changing this and replacing it with our technology, which is a size of an iPhone. And this is the first prototype with a phase array transducers that we created. And as you can see the images on the in vitro breast imaging and in vivo breast imaging, not only our technology can simply be laminated on the skin, also it doesn't require external pressure against the breast tissue, which is very uncomfortable. And at the same time, unnecessarily, we are not deforming the anomaly by itself. So this is especially important when it comes to a better biopsy in case you really need to do. So you are not deforming and you are checking the breast anomalies over time with a great deal of universality and repeatability, and also making it kind of independent than the user or the operator, because not necessarily every operator will apply the same pressure on your skin. But this technology, given that it is not including any external pressure against the tissue, you will have the same measurement over time, which will eliminate the user errors in the picture. So current momentum, actually, we have tens of clinicians trained at MGH. We have hundreds of patients ready for the trials. And we actually did our first trial in 2023 when I was pregnant. And then 2024, when my baby was 1 year old, we tried the same, we did a trial on the same patient. And this year, I don't have the picture. I mean, last year, we did another trial on on our subject. And we show 3 years in a row that we can capture an anomaly in a given subject with our technology, with a great accuracy and also repeatability, which is very important when it comes to this kind of sensitive disease tracking. And currently, we are in this the middle part where we did the prototype customizable data acquisition system, but at the end, our goal in coming years is to make this really small and fingernail size of the data acquisition system, so that everything can be incorporated in a personal bra, and you can carry these devices at home and send the data through cloud to your iPhone and process it and create an AI supported report for radiologists and doctors for a better assessment. Now, let me switch the gears and this time talk about something even much, much smaller, almost, I would say 100 times smaller than in a hair fiber sizes. So this is really tiny technology that you can even thread through a needle hole. And this time not attachable, not wearable, but implantable. The aspect ratio is really long because we really need to go something deeper. And we, at the same time, do not want the technology to deflect from that location and should be rigid enough to go and also flimsy enough to move with the beating brain tissue itself. So we call this technology impulse. And the aim is here, the deep brain neurostimulation for different types of neurological stimulation for various neurodegenerative disorders. So as I said, the device is so tiny, so I want to give you a perspective here, how we designed this technology this time, very longer and also very narrower, so that any tissue damage while going inside the deep brain would be as minimal as possible. So you may ask why we create this technology. What is the gap in the literature, which we oftentimes start with? The neurostimulation in the deep brain oftentimes conducted with two different styles. Number one is transcranial. You use a external ultrasound technologies on top of the skull and used focus ultrasonography. However, the skull over here is a big barrier. It's bone at the end of the day. And even though you try to focus your ultrasonography as much as you can, the resolution is quite high, millimeter scale, which is not enough, especially if you would like to explore deep brain regions such as substantia nigra. By itself is a micrometer scale region and very sophisticated region. So people also work implantable deep brain stimulators like DBS. However, they are amazing, they are really good, but oftentimes, given that their electrode is exposed to this very humidic region in the deep brain, corrosion happens over time. So when the corrosion happens, what's happening because of the corroded structure on top of the electrode, even though you apply voltage to given neurological sites, that voltage is not enough anymore. You have to apply more to bypass this corroded region. And if you do so, then your battery getting depleted much faster. And or over time, the technology, the human brain thinks that it's a part of the brain itself. So it builds biofouling around the technology so that the charge injection is not successful anymore because you really need to pass this excessive tissue around the device. So to sort of overcome all these drawbacks, here we are creating a hair-thin, flexible PMOD structure, which is tissue safe, low attenuation. There is no exposed electrochemical surface. We encapsulate everything, including the electrode, and it's providing low power. And here, look at the design of it. We have a backing layer and an air cavity, as you can see in this mid picture. And on top of it, there is a tiny minor region like a layer sheet. And if you look at the this red dash region, there is an exploited view where you can have the piezoelectric Canan layer in between with top and bottom electrode. It's kind of a drum. You have the membrane underneath, you have air cavity. When you apply voltage to this actuator type structure, they actually vibrate like up and down. And given that there is an air cavity underneath, the ultrasonography differentially, preferably go towards the other direction. So there is a directionality in the ultrasonography that you are creating. The air is some kind of suppressing it. It's not going down because of the air, it's going up where the technology exposed to the population of neurons. So, by the way, I forgot to tell what piezoelectric means and how they works. Please excuse me. Piezoelectric means piezo and electric. If you divide it in two, piezo means stress strain deformation. Electric means positive and negative charges. So when you apply voltage to these piezoelectric structures, they're actually changing their shapes. So they work like an actuator. And because of that fluctuation, they are actually creating sound wave, which is ultrasonography at the end of the day. So when they go and hit any tissue or any anomaly, they reflect back, and the technology captures it and provides you a black and white image, which is an ultrasonography photograph at the end of the day. So here we are sort of leveraging this piezoelectric phenomena again and using the technology this time like a drum. And this physical pressure is actually creating different types of mechanism in given ions in the deep brain regions, like potassium and calcium ions, so that they can move differently and provide a stimulation with no chemical, no electrical, and no optical drawbacks. So you are technically doing it mechanical. Here, this could be a little bit like too much histochemistry, but I would like to highlight how we are implanting the device in the hippocampus. And this is important in the hippocampus because you could see when you apply a voltage with a certain frequency in one region on the brain, you actually see a CFOS expression. CFOS expression is actually, you may think of it like you are firing the neurons in that region with mechanical stimulation. And this is amazing because it's this result is supported by the literature. And for this work, by the way, we worked on 4 different institutions and across 6 different groups, all the way from McGovern, Boston, and Caltech and MIT, to come up with this device design and experimental design, how we should validate it, how we should show this, where we need to implant this device in a certain region, and what kind of voltage and frequency stimulation that we need to do. And then the next part, which is so actually a great part I would like to show is, I'm not sure if you all heard about optogenetic. Optogenetic is kind of a technology where one of my mentors also invented at Boyden. They use a sort of a virus inject in the brain, and then they shine a light, and through that light, those viruses get activated and creates firing in the neurons. So you may think ours with no virus, but with mechanical stimulation, we are trying to do the same. Sort of to understand if this works, if our technology works or not, we implant a device in a special region in the brain, which is called substantia nigra, so small, sub-millimeter size. And why we specifically targeted this region is because we have dopaminergic neurons over there. And when you stimulate that region, actually you see a dopamine release, which is actually very much related underlying mechanisms of the Parkinson's disease, where oftentimes the patient sees the tremors in their hands and different features. So here we lower the device in SNC, substantia nigra, as a part of control. We move the device only 200 micrometer away, which is so tiny, by the way, so that we can call it as a control state. And we try on 3 different mice, and we lower the device and stimulate and read the neurological outcome and CFOS expression through the optic fiber to see we really have a stimulation there or not. And as you can see from the 2 different panels in the same slide, we see a substantial increase in the Z-score of given 3 mice substantia nigra region. And when we sort of off it, you also see a dramatic decrease, whereas in the control is perfectly fluctuating over time, which there is no kind of a higher chain in between. So this is quite a great demonstration in the literature. And currently what we are doing with this technology, it's perfect that we showed in the literature that first time ever it's possible to do neurological stimulation in the deep region of the brain. And by the way, this work took more than 6.5 years to complete. However, this is not done yet. We are also planning, we publish it now, we are also planning the extension of the work where in addition to ultrasonography, we are also providing immunomodulation, immunotherapy through infusion cannulas, where we can use different types of protein-based drugs in the core of a glioblastoma so that we can either shrink or control the growth of the glioblastoma, which is a type of brain cancer, through ultrasonography effect, as well as the immunotherapy effect, because we found that when you use the ultrasonography, you are actually recruiting the T cells, which is very important when it comes to the fighting with the glioblastoma. So these T cells are adhering the immunotherapy that we are sending through the infusion cannula, so that we can do really targeted pinpoint therapy in given small glioblastoma regions in the brain. With that said, not only the research part of it, also I'm trying to create awareness and increase sort of the community around the women's health. And a year ago, I launched a women's health program at the Media Lab, where I had the Harvard Advanced Leadership Program incorporation. They also helped me quite a lot, and we are raising a lot of funding around there at the Media Lab. And we also have a WHX seminar series to sort of encourage people to talk about women's health, to explore about women's health, and study around women's health. And we also do a lot of partnership with MIT Martin Trust Center, Deschwante Center, and MIT Center for Clinical and Translational Research. And all this work is great. And one thing that I really would like to highlight, especially for our female scientists in the class, in the course, as an outcome of my individual and group activities around women's health, I was also recognized by the BBC's 100 Influential Women list in 2023. And this was also a personal encouragement for me, because oftentimes when I say women's health, many people are saying, do not talk about women's health. You may not get funding, you may not get enough, support and so on. And by default, when you are a biomedical researcher, you're already having hard time to get funding. So I was like, okay, let's say it, at least I'm working on women's health, and it worked out at the end of the day. And to do all this work, and of course, we do work with amazing people all around the world, and especially within the Media Lab, where I'm a faculty. I work across the disciplines and multiple departments at MIT and the centers, and our international and national collaborators in the universities, and of course, the companies and the funding agencies, foundations, and so on. With that, I would like to take a moment and thank to all of my group members. You cannot recognize who is who in the clean room, thankfully. So we do every crazy research in our lab, given that you cannot recognize who is doing what. And with that, I would like to thank you all and would be very happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
What a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
And
I'm on time. Great.
oh, wonderfully on time. Wow, so inspiring, really.
Thank you.
Time is of the essence. So, are there any burning questions from students that you must know the answer right now? Aha, Gloria.
Victoria studied me so much, so
Yeah.
I of
Yes,
course have questions.
of course. Please go ahead.
Yeah. I was just wondering because like throughout your presentation, I'm not a biology major, unfortunately, but I'm right now studying biology a little bit across my GIR, so it was really interesting. And I was just wondering, um, like if you weren't limited by any like current materials or physics, what is your like let's say creation dream? Like what would you dream of creating without all the like financial limitations and other limitations?
What I would love to create, you say?
Yeah, yes.
Actually, I don't want to create anything at the moment. I want to just translate what I already created. So, with that said, I really would like to change the mindset of people and have, for instance, our breast technology and find our beachhead market entry and have it available for rest of the community. And also, why I said the mindset of the people is because when I studied breast cancer and sort of having this technology to be instrumental in people's life, I found not only the technical challenges, but also the cultural challenges. For instance, some women cannot even see a doctor because their husbands are not in favor of them to be in the hospital settings. Some people even have no idea what mammography or ultrasonography means. Even the ultrasonography is non-radiative, they still think that it may be harmful for their body. And even some people would like to do it, but they have no single money, and or their insurance is not supportive. And we still think that, for instance, Black and minority movement have less breast cancer um, cases. However, it's actually false. It seems like that because there is a lack of data. They have barriers and they cannot be screened, and the results cannot be in the data pool. And we just assume based on this unfair data. So for me, I think we explored and created so much until this moment, and I think we really need to take an action and make these technologies um, as as instrumental as possible in the real case scenarios. So nowadays, I am also spending some of my time thinking on this translational aspect of it. Um, for me, it is enough. We really need to take an action.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Canan, maybe I just ask you, and then first of all, thank you for the wonderful lecture. It's so wonderful to hear you, and this is the first time I'm co-teaching this course with Daniele, and when I thought about design across the scales and disciplines, we were like, we got to get, people that they're designing in nanoscales from inside the human body all the way to space. And you're the perfect example of like thinking about the human body and the relationship of the human body to technology in the very nanoscales. In your and so I hope that was very educational for me, and I hope that this would lead to some future collaborations, because I'm personally fascinated by the human body and its relationship with the environments. Now, I am very curious, in your case, you've been engaged with ways that this relationship is about health purposes, either is inside the brain or inside your gut, or for women health. It's mainly a lot about health issues. Is there any other topics that you think that this technology would allow that you haven't explored, but you see potentials for them?
Great question. I would say maybe by thinking I might be a little bit conservative, but I would still say healthcare and health, but in different spaces. For instance, we still do not know how the astronauts' body is changing in the outer space when they are traveling. Yes, we do create technologies for Earth, but what if we use these technologies elsewhere in other planets? So this is sort of another um, kind of an idea, exploration, expansion idea of the given technologies that we do. And another thing that I really value, and thank you for your kind words for that too, the design aspect. We often create devices which do not have any curves, do not have any colors, no, like very, I would say, very ugly and very uh, boring looking. So for me, that part is also important. Like, how can I create a customizable technology which can reflect on the expression? For instance, I would like to make these technologies, but when a dark-skinned woman wears this, that might be so obvious that that woman is wearing it because of the tone of the color tone difference in between the device and the woman. So how can I customize it? How can I make it socially more acceptable? I'm not sure if you remember that camouflaging technology that we showed. We made it perfectly off so that people can really understand we camouflage it. But it took a while for us even to conceptualize it. Should we make it obvious or non-obvious? If so, even some of the foundation products are not perfectly good enough to cover those different types of skin tones. And also, especially after having my first, the one and only child, I also care about so much the technologies for young babies, how we can make them kind of enjoyable looking so that they don't just take it away, but they wear them for a long time on their skin, and how we can make them um, sort of use them for a long time, because using for a long time makes so much difference, because data is so important. It's not the byproduct, it's the second product coming from our own technological outcomes. So I am also looking for this kind of applications. And with that said, I think collaboration across the disciplines, including art, design, and expression, is specifically important when it comes to the engineering solutions, because uh, here is where we can blend our complementary parts and make these technologies more affordable, more acceptable, and more comfortable for everyone during the daily life.
Thank you.
Abby, do you think I can go ahead and ask one burning question? Is it right? Okay. And only because, Janan, you kind of led us into this question about translation, and I just cannot help but to just to contextualize it for the students. Doesn't matter what discipline you're working on as a designer, we have so many ideas and things we want to do in the world, but you'll soon find out that there are very different structures and biases and politics and different groups of people and cultural situations and so on. And we then have to face the challenge of communicating and being understood, right? And being understood in the most positive way possible without excluding and so on. So I wanted to just ask you, Janan, what have you found successful in your journey of translation to make your technologies instrumental?
Wow, this is a good and very hard question, and I can tell you things for hours. One thing
You
that,
could also choose to answer at the end.
sure, no, one thing that maybe I should highlight here so that our students should know about it. MIT actually did a great survey and study on how much women faculty translate their research compared to the male faculty. And obviously, there is a huge difference in between. To sort of close this gap, MIT launched a new program which is called Future Founders Initiative, in which they invite and select a few female entrepreneurs, faculty, and teach them quite a lot about the business market, market segmentation, beachhead, and all such things. And what I found interesting is that even though, especially when it comes to the women's health, usually the field is extremely male dominated. The VCs, the board members, the people who are giving you money, and at the end of the day, who are listening to you, even though some things are very obvious to you, it may not, and most of the time, it's not obvious to rest of the people that you are talking to you, talking to them. So it requires a lot of talking, communicating, and supporting each other. That's why I'm trying to create this WHX program so that when we say women's health, at least people will not say, oh, this is the first time I'm hearing for. It's like we are throwing out some words and some proposals so that it's not something new anymore. We should just talk and create for that. Um, but it is something which is taking time, and I am committed for that, because we really need to. If we cannot do it at MIT, where can we do it, right? So it's a right location, right institution, and we have amazing. That's why I wanted to highlight Martin Trust Center, the Schwante Center, and so on. We have many Sloan Business School. I think this is a great exposure and opportunity for our students. And if there is anyone who is willing to learn more about WHX, we are all here, and we would love to hear from you.
Wonderful. Wow. What a great answer. I know Mila has a hand up, and maybe you want to go ahead and ask your question quickly.
My question is very, very brief. I was just wondering because you mentioned in the presentation about the silicone patches that you have on people's bodies and then you can cover up. I was wondering how long, two questions. One, how long those last for, and also clarification on where that data can be received. Like, can that be received like digitally into different databases and then that's distributed, or somewhere internal, just it reacts on the skin?
Great question. So the technology itself is designed to be disposable, and that device was, I think, as far as I remember, it was around $3 and so on. So you can laminate it, and we also have some holes in case you sweat over time during a day. and you laminate on your skin. And what it does, it captures the strain measurement when you do different types of facial gestures, and through that it can classify it real time in the computer with some simple language classification systems. And for instance, if you do like kind of a twitch, it says I want to go to toilet. If you do something else like I'm hungry or tired, it's specifically for people who may have speech disorders like ALS. And it's perfectly real time. Within sub-seconds we were doing it, and you can use it like for a day or so, and then you can just detach and trash it around.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Janan, very much. I think that with that, we can segue into the second part of the session. And hopefully we can have some time at the end to have more questions and more discussion.